Okay.
Because here you are still sitting with me on a snowmobile. I think if I really done you wrong, you would not be still
No,
sitting.
I'm still
Or you
fighting for
swallowing it.
you.
Okay.
I always swallow shit, and I tell you that
Okay.
all the
Well,
time.
you can
Stop
start.
acting like
You
this
can
is the
start
way. I'm
swallowing.
going to stop.
Okay.
I promise to
Okay.
stop.
Hey guys, and welcome to Little Blackbird 91. We're talking to you guys about KB and talking about Edmund. Now, KB needs to stop swallowing her truth and actually speak up because it's causing her to crash out, and it's causing you to also crash out. Many of you can identify how KB feels. You withhold your truth, you give them so much grace, and they don't know you're giving them grace because you're withholding your truth. And you're like, this is the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time, and then you finally explode and crash out, and you feel justified in your crash out. And in fact, you don't understand why your partner now is responding defensively to you because you're like, I've given you so many chances and I'm crashing out. Why is it now when I'm crashing out, you're crashing out? In fact, KB said those exact words. When I'm feeling the way I'm feeling and you're feeling, why are you responding and being emotional? This was another argument they had. And reality is because when you crash out, you're not able to communicate effectively. You crashing out is not effective communications, right? When you are able to speak up for yourself and be assertive, and assertiveness simply means the ability for you to be able to speak your truth whilst simultaneously considering the feelings of the other person, but not letting it stop you from saying your truth. I.e., I can tell you right now that, you know what you're doing right now is hurting my feelings. If I'm crashing out, I'm going to tell you, you're an annoying little prick. And the way you're going on, trust me, you're about to get my worst. That's a crash out, right? Yeah, so I can process how I feel and tell you, hey, you know what? When you speak to me this way, this actually hurts me. And when I'm hurt, I don't want to engage with you in that same manner, in the same way. The two are completely different, right? I can still tell you this. And Nick gives us a great rendition of this when he deals with Annie. But coming back onto KB and coming back onto Edmund, okay, it is understandable that couples will fight, they will have arguments, they will have issues. But one thing you can guarantee from two avoidants, because I believe they're both avoidants here, and they might be both FA, but at least one is playing more avoidant, one's playing a bit um uh seemingly playing more anxious, and it seems that Edmund's playing more of the anxious person at points. And so what you're going to find is with avoidant people, which is basically an attachment style. This was coined by John Bowlby, who's a British psychologist who noticed between young children and the caregivers how those children would act with their caregiver, and then they would also transfer those patterns of behavior to their adults. So avoidants are born out of households where they have been neglected emotionally, and we know that with KB because her father relationship. Yeah. And so that her needing coverage, her needing someone to be there for her needing somebody to emotionally cover her and protect her wasn't there, right? From that male figure. And so she's had to fight all her life in a sense. And what that does is it breeds hyper independence, but it also breeds a person who's very solution orientated, but they don't recognize that some solutions are actually solved emotionally. They don't recognize that actually you need to take care of your emotional needs. And so what ends up happening for like someone like KB, and probably you, if you're watching this and understanding where I'm going, is that you start to store up the frustrations that you have not because you're a better person. I want to tell you the truth so you don't lie to yourself. I need you to come out of that lie you tell yourself. Oh, I'm keeping it in. I don't want to, I don't want to be the nag. No, that's not why you're doing it. It's not because you're going to be a nag. No, 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 no. Let me tell you the honest truth. You are conflict avoidant. And not only are you conflict avoidant, you're afraid of your own anger. Yes, that's why KB later on apologizes for her crash out. You are afraid of your anger. A lot of avoidants are not good at managing. Sorry, I shouldn't say managing. What I want to say is a lot of avoidants don't have a great relationship with their anger. They are very easily frustrated, and they lack patience. Again, these are things that KB has said. If you go and watch that episode, she says these things. They lack patience, and the reason why is because nobody had patience for them. Nobody had grace for them. Nobody was considerate of them. And so, actually, when they find a partner and their partner does those very things that they actually need themselves, right, or the partner lacks doing those things, they then respond in the ways that they actually don't need, and they respond in the ways that are actually not fruitful for the relationship, such as crashing out at this particular time and moment. Okay, so KB, yes, she is swallowing, not because she's a great person, not because she's so graceful. No, no, no. Avoiders don't do that because they're graceful. They do that because they're conflict avoidant and they don't have a great relationship with anger, and they're afraid that anger will spill over and they will end up hurting someone or saying something that they shouldn't say and can't take it back. And really, truly, because they're also afraid of the fact that their anger will control them, and they don't like being controlled by nothing. right? That's what they've been reared to believe. They shouldn't be controlled by their emotions. But we're 5 minutes in now. I haven't even done an introduction. Hey guys, make sure you like, share, subscribe, click on that bell button for the notifications of the uploads. Let's get deeper into this video. Before we do, hype this video up, hype it up. You know what I mean? Hype this video up. Press that hype button, because this means that it goes out to more people who are going to watch this and learn as well from these videos. Okay, let's go a little bit deeper. She's a social worker, okay? So surely she should know how to communicate. Let's go into his argument.
I'm going to stop.
Okay.
Because I am fighting for something that you're not fighting for the same.
But okay.
So now she tells him that he's not fighting for what she's fighting for. That's not true either. See, when you start making those conclusions, you're going into judgment zone. One thing I've learned about avoidance, I'm one of them, so I know, and I'm becoming more secure, is that we do tend to make these judgments. Why? Because at this point, we're frustrated and we're hurt, and we don't know how to solve the issue. You see, because the reason is that a lot of avoidance can solve any other issue, the work issue, the finance issue, career, their mom or dad sort out issues, their brothers and sisters, friends, family. They can sort out all those issues, but they don't recognize, because they didn't get the opportunity to do so, that their own relationship requires more than just being able to solve a problem. It requires emotional skills. And it requires an emotional capacity to be regulated even in the moments where you are hurt. They don't like feeling let down or disappointed or betrayed. That's number one as well. Okay. But just because she's a social worker doesn't mean she knows how to communicate. Why do I say this? Well, her job, whilst it may require social skills, okay, there's no personal stakes in the job. What I mean by that is there's no personal stakes. There are some stakes career-wise, financially, but not personal. Her own life is not on the line. But when she's in a relationship, her own life, her own heart is on the line. And at that place, when your heart's on the line, you now are trying to protect it because you're afraid of being let down or disappointed or being hurt. So in her work phase, she might listen a bit more. She might talk a bit more. She may be able to communicate much better because at work, again, there is no personal stakes. But you see, in relationships, you can't just problem solve your way out of it. You actually have to not come out of the rescuing mode. You have to come out of the Superman complex. You have to come out of I'm trying to save you, build up Bobina the builder prospects, right? Because as we know, she likes to Captain Save them all. You need to come out of that in a relationship. You can't be saving people. You have to allow them the opportunity to grow and allow them the opportunity to be their own autonomous person. So that means now you can have no control. At your workplace, you have far more control. That's what makes it. That's probably what makes her so great at her job. She has a level of control. Where's the control? Well, the control is actually in the fact that she can issue a judgment. If you mess around with her, bro, she can say you're not the right fit kind of mother, or write a report and and things get done. In relationships, you can't just tell someone and order them to do something because they're free, autonomous beings that don't have the authority. That you don't have the authority to conduct them where to go. And so therefore, you don't have that same control. That's what makes it scary for avoidance in relationships. So then if we're saying all of this, then surely then what blame does Edmund have in this whole situation? Can I really be honest with you? Let's not think about Edmund's blame here. Why do I say this? Not because I'm a man, not because I'm biased, and not because I want men to get away with things. No, I want to say this in the sense of so you can be accountable and empowered. A lot of times when I deal with coaching clients and I tell them kind of stuff, they want to solve their marriage or their relationship. And I tell them, then you are the problem. If you want to solve your marriage, stop trying to solve them and solve you. The way you're showing up and the way that you're moving in that relationship is causing you issues. Okay. So someone like KB in this moment might be focused on Edmund and thinking to herself, I need to change Edmund. If you just grow up, did she not say that in this clip? She did. She said, you need to grow up. Right. And not recognizing that if he needs to grow up, why were you with him in the first place? Oh, I fell with the one I fell in love with was one in the pods. He was the same guy as he is now, which means you got a problem. Because if he's a kid, you're the issue. You've got to be accountable. Okay. So your biggest issue isn't them, it's you. Okay. And you must learn that. So when you learn how to be assertive, this actually changes the dynamics of the relationship. Right now, KB isn't assertive. She's aggressive. And when you go onto aggressive, your partner suffers because they have to shirt back, or they're gonna have to match your energy. And whenever you match energy and you got two things going at each other, it's dush, 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 dush. Nobody wins. If we're trying to get right and wrong, then we're gonna fail our relationship. But if we're trying to get understanding versus understanding, this is where you win. Okay. So if any argument you ever have with your partner and you don't get understanding of what their position is and why they feel the way they do, go back and argue again because you're arguing wrong. Go back and argue again because you're arguing wrong. You're not asking the right questions. If the argument ends in a right and a wrong, you're still not doing the work you need to do. There should be a come to a place where we actually, I'm trying to understand where you're coming from. What is it that you're saying? I should be able to articulate what your actual issue is. If that means we take it a little bit slower, cool. If that means we take it one argument at a time, cool. But what we're doing is we're making sure we're training ourselves not to get lustful about winning the battle because we're in a power struggle, because we're afraid of being hurt by the other person. And therefore we can't actually slow down. So one of the things you have to watch out for, because this is what KB ended up doing. I want to play a little clip.
If I don't think I'm in the wrong, I'm not gonna be saying I'm sorry because you're gonna know I'm not serious. But I want to say
okay, I mean that clip had nothing to do with what I was going to talk about. But anyway, I just realized it had nothing to do with what I was going to talk about. But in that space, okay, what Edmund probably can potentially do is create more of an emotionally safe space. And that's going to lead to my solution a little bit later on. But whoever's the most emotionally mature and strongest and able to articulate themselves should normally take the lead on this situation, because they're going to be tasked to bring about creating a safe zone for everybody to be able to exist in. But I'll talk about that in a minute or two. I want to say this. Edmund is her mirror and she is Edmund's mirror. If they're going to win, they're going to have to look at each other, look at themselves in the mirror and figure out how they can show up better, because they are each other's mirrors. Whenever we date anybody, two things happen. Number one, we date them because they like us. And number two, we date them because they aspirationally have something that we want. And whenever those two things aren't present, usually somebody's using the other person. That's the reason why you're in a relationship with that person. You're using them. Because any other reasons other than you are similar and they have something that you want aspirationally, yeah, that tends to be a usury relationship. Now, if you notice how she spazzed out, actually, Edmund spazzed out a little bit earlier on too. You probably don't remember, you might not think of it as a spaz out, but it was. If you go back to episode 9 when they were talking and she brought up the whole issue about, okay, why did you say that comment? And then he ended up saying, oh, you don't ever say anything nice. He spazzed out. Why did I say he spazzed out? Because that's information she have told her in private and volunteered it, not said it when now he was under the cosh. This is something that you see avoidants do a lot too. Fearful avoidants do this as a lash out. Dismissive avoidants do this because they're storing, they're also lashing out as well, but in a different way. They're storing up their frustrations, right? So in this particular aspect, what you had with Edmund in episode 9 is he spazzed out by saying those words, because if you felt it, you should have said it before. But you've waited till now when I'm now saying how I feel some way about you, you're now saying what you're saying. So that's a spaz out. Okay. So, you know, these two both spaz out on each other, and they're going to have to learn how to control their tongue. They're going to have to learn how and when to have certain conversation arguments, you know, and learn not to be so indirect. This whole argument is predicated on the fact that she admits that she swallows things. Okay, so I know our time is running, so let me get to the solutions of this situation. Whoever is more emotionally mature in communication, whoever can be more assertive in his communications, should take charge of these conversations. Let me give you an example of what this happened. You know, last year, I went through some things and experienced some things that really opened my eyes to my communicational skills. They were atrocious. I thought they were great. They were rubbish. And you know that when you're under pressure, because that's how you learn how to communicate. I remember there's a specific incident where you know, I learned to be more assertive. But you can go to a point where you're so assertive that you don't recognize that your partner isn't there yet, and then you kind of like are saying things, and then the other person's getting hurt, even though you're being assertive, right? You're valid in your truth, but you're not recognizing that it's an egg and spoon race, and your legs are tied. You go too far ahead without really being able to accommodate your partner who's attached to your leg. You go and run and drag them along the floor. Okay, so here's what I'm going to say. For the person who's more emotionally mature, as you're calling yourself, you're probably watching this saying, I'm more emotionally mature. If you are those people, good, because this is for you. If you are the more emotionally mature and you can communicate your feelings and you're more regulated, I'm expecting more from you, because much that's given, much is expected. Here in this situation, what you need to do is start creating a safe space. How do you do that? Well, first and foremost, don't ever yield from being assertive. Keep being assertive. You're doing well. The second thing to do is to recognize your partner isn't there yet. So what does that mean? Ditch them? No. What it means is start creating a safe space by also opening up the floor to say, hey, look, I've said how I feel. And I recognize that you're not really saying what's truly on your mind. And I know you may feel shy, or you may feel like you're going to hurt my feelings. Look, Feelings get hurt when we say things, whether it's truthful, whether we say it nicely or harshly. I probably might get hurt by what you got to say. But what I will learn is that when you tell me what you've told me, I can now grow from that place. I can now be better from that place. I can now be a better partner to you, knowing the truth. Right. So I'd rather create a space where you can say how you feel. So I'm going to sit here. I'm going to give it a few minutes. I'm not going to say nothing. If we sit in silence for a few minutes, when you feel ready, you let me know what's been bothering you, what's on your mind, because I've already told you what my thoughts are. I want to hear what you've got to say. And you sit there for a few minutes. You don't open your mouth. You don't interrupt. You don't try to add something. You get comfortable. Right. And so in the conversation with KB and Edmund, we don't see that. Right.
Sorry, just to like have you hear it, but you'll sense it and tell like I'm not serious.
I never want you to just say sorry.
I know, so that's what I'm doing right now. But instead, I'm doing.
You didn't even tell me sorry. So that.
This is an argument because each person's also just jumping. They're not even allowed a person to speak. So this is exactly what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about. You don't want to be jumping. You want to give people the time so they can explain themselves and land. So for you, if you're the more emotionally mature and seemingly the more assertive, open your mouth to say what you got to say, and then open up the space for them and tell them it's safe enough for them to share. And you're willing to wait for a few minutes to hear what they got to say. You're not going to rush them. You're waiting to hear what they got to say. And you might find out by the 3rd minute, they start like, so, you know, because a lot of avoidants are afraid of really telling the truth. So that's what Edmund could have done. Edmund could have held a bit more space, kept quiet. But I mean, she was berating him, but either way. And then that could have opened up more of a safe space, and vice versa. She can do the exact same thing. But this is a method for you to be able to hopefully help, you know, your relationship. If this has helped this video or it's challenged you in some way, then by all means, please like it, share, subscribe, click down below I'll say click down below, leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Do you agree or disagree? And also hype this video up. Okay. Now, if you want any coaching, I'm doing my last batch of people that I'm taking on board before the end of November, before I've got to just kind of leave it as it is. But please let us know down below. There's a description in the description box. There's a link to our free discovery call that you can book yourself in before we book any kind of coaching to see if I align with your goals and also your particular expectations as well. But enough from me. My time is up, and I appreciate you guys. Stay locked and loaded. We'll see you again soon.